American trucks have been the single most dominant product category in U.S. automotive history for over 4 decades. They don't just sell well, they define what American manufacturing is supposed to mean. The F-Series has outsold every car and truck in America for 47 consecutive years. That's not a statistic. That's a cultural institution. So when I tell you that right now, in 2025, multiple truck brands are facing problems serious enough to threaten their long-term survival, I need you to understand, I'm not being dramatic. I'm reading the data. I'm watching the dealer networks. I'm tracking the production decisions and the corporate moves that most buyers never pay attention to. And what I'm seeing? It's not good for everyone. Today, we're going through 5 truck brands, some American, some sold as American, that are in genuine trouble. Not they had a slow quarter trouble. Real, structural, possibly irreversible trouble. And whether you own one of these trucks right now, or you're about to buy one, this is information that directly affects your money. Here's what made trucks so bulletproof for so long. The profit margin on a fully loaded pickup truck, your King Ranch, your Denali Ultimate, your Ram 1500 Longhorn, runs somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 per unit. Per truck. That's not revenue. That's profit. And American manufacturers got addicted to that margin. They stopped innovating on the fundamentals and started layering on luxury trim packages because the money was too good to walk away from. But here's what happens when you build your entire business model on one product being endlessly profitable. The moment that product faces real competition, or real consumer resistance, or a real economic shift, the whole house of cards shakes. We're in that moment right now. Electric trucks are confusing the buyer base. Reliability gaps are showing up in long-term ownership data. And several brands made strategic bets in the last 3 to 5 years that are now looking like serious miscalculations. Let's go through them. Ram has done something genuinely impressive over the last decade. They went from being a distant third in the truck wars to legitimately competing for the number 2 spot. The interior quality jump they made with the 4th generation 1500 turned heads. Journalists loved it. Buyers responded. But look underneath that beautiful interior and the picture gets more complicated. D-Power's 2024 Vehicle Dependability Study, which tracks 3-year ownership problems, not initial quality, placed Ram trucks in the bottom half of the segment. Zuro Lighter EcoDiesel had well-documented issues before it was discontinued. The 8-speed transmission in certain model years generated more complaints than Ram's PR team would ever want to acknowledge publicly. And the eTorque mild hybrid system, which was supposed to be a bridge technology, has created a new category of repair headaches for owners who are now out of warranty. Here's what this actually means for a buyer. You can look at a Ram 1500 on a showroom floor and fall in love with it. The interior is genuinely that good. But if you're planning to keep this truck for 150,000 to 200,000 miles, the long-term data is not as reassuring as the sticker price suggests it should be. That gap between perceived quality and actual durability is a brand trust problem that Ram hasn't solved yet. And it's getting harder to solve while the parent company is on fire. We'll come back to that. GMC's brand positioning has always been a little philosophically tricky. It's a Chevrolet underneath. Same platform, same powertrains, largely the same engineering. The pitch to buyers has always been, you're getting a more refined, more premium version of the same mechanical package. And for a long time, that was a viable pitch. The problem is that pitch requires the premium trims to be meaningfully different. And the price gap between a loaded Chevy Silverado and a comparable GMC Sierra has been shrinking in terms of what you actually get for the difference. Meanwhile, the Denali nameplate, which was GMC's ace card, has been so aggressively extended down the trim ladder that it started to lose its meaning. When Denali becomes a mid-trim option rather than a true flagship distinction, you've diluted your one differentiator. Think about it this way. If someone asks you what you get with a GMC over a Chevy, same engine, same frame, same technology platform, and your honest answer is the badge and some interior trim pieces, that's not a sustainable value proposition. GMC's 2024 sales numbers reflect this. Sierra share within the GM portfolio has been declining relative to Silverado. The brand is increasingly dependent on Denali and AT4 Halo trims to justify its existence. And those trims are priced into territory where buyers start comparing them to Ford Platinum and Ram Longhorn. And the comparison doesn't always go GMC's way. This isn't a reliability story. GMC trucks are not unreliable, it's an identity story. And identity crises in the automotive world tend to get very expensive very fast. Now let me be precise here, because this one matters. The traditional F-150 is not going anywhere. The gas-powered F-Series is still the backbone of Ford's profitability. I'm talking about the Lightning. And the Lightning situation is one of the more fascinating case studies in recent automotive history. $5 billion in F-150 Lightning development and manufacturing infrastructure. They announced over 200,000 pre-order reservations and positioned the Lightning as proof that electric trucks had mass market appeal. The narrative was perfect. Then the production ramp happened. Then real-world range in cold weather became a widespread conversation. Then the starting price climbed from the originally announced $39,994 to a real-world, decently equipped price well over $60,000. And then Ford had to cut Lightning production multiple times because retail demand couldn't keep up with what they were building. Fleet sales have kept the Lightning on life support. But fleet buyers are not the buyers Ford was imagining when they bet the future of the F-150 brand on electrification. And the question now is whether Ford can keep Lightning viable long enough for the market to mature, without damaging the F-150's overall brand equity in the process. That's not a settled question. And billions of dollars are riding on the answer. The Nissan Titan hasn't received a meaningful generation update since 2016. That's not a slow development cycle. That's a brand on life support. Meanwhile, every competitor in the full-size segment went through complete platform redesigns. Toyota rebuilt the Tundra from the ground up with a twin-turbo V6 and a completely new frame. Ram launched an entirely new generation. Ford put a hybrid in the F-150 and then launched an EV. Nissan? Nothing. A refresh here. A color update there. Dealer inventory of the Titan has become almost invisible in many markets. Conquest sales, meaning buyers switching from another brand to Titan, are essentially zero in any meaningful volume. The people still buying Titans are largely previous Titan owners who haven't been given a reason to switch. That's a fine way to maintain a small, residual customer base, but it's not a growth strategy. It's not even a survival strategy at current volumes. If Nissan announced tomorrow that they were discontinuing the Titan in North America, it would surprise almost nobody in the industry. The brand has quietly, undramatically, and almost politely exited the competitive truck segment. They just haven't made it official yet. Now this last one requires you to zoom out from individual trucks and look at the corporate structure, because what's happening at Stellantis, Ram's parent company, is serious enough to be a direct risk to Ram's product future. In 2024, Stellantis went through a level of executive turbulence that most automotive companies experience only during full bankruptcy proceedings. CEO Carlos Tavares resigned under pressure. The company announced significant layoffs across North American operations. Plants in the US were idled or running at reduced capacity. Financial guidance was cut repeatedly. And the relationship between Stellantis corporate and UAW workers deteriorated to a point that affected production continuity. Here's why this matters for Ram specifically. Product development cycles in the truck segment run 5 to 7 years. The investments you make today in platform development, powertrain technology, and manufacturing, infrastructure show up in the trucks you're selling 6 years from now. When a company is in financial distress, cutting costs, deferring investment, managing quarterly earnings pressure, those future product cycles get squeezed. Ram's current 1500 platform is good, but its next generation needs to be great. And great costs money that a financially stressed Stellantis may not be positioned to allocate freely. I want to be clear, Ram isn't going bankrupt tomorrow. The brand has genuine strengths and a loyal customer base. But the corporate environment around it right now represents a level of uncertainty that any serious truck buyer should factor into a long-term ownership decision, especially if you're buying a truck you plan to keep for a decade. The truck market in America is entering a genuine shakeout period. For decades, buying an American truck was a relatively safe bet. The big brands were stable, the products were proven, and the only real question was which one fit your needs. That era of stability is over. What we're watching right now is a filtration process. Some brands are going to come out of this period stronger, with clearer identities, better products, and smarter long-term strategies. Others are going to lose ground that they may never fully recover. Understanding which is which isn't just automotive trivia. If you're spending $55,000, $65,000, or $75,000 on a truck, you should know whether the brand behind it has a credible plan for the next 10 years. Resale value, parts availability, dealer support, all of it flows from brand health. The good news? The information is out there. The sales data is public. The production announcements are public. The corporate filings are public. You just have to know what to look for and be willing to look past the marketing. I'm going to keep tracking these stories, production numbers, reliability data, corporate decisions, because this stuff moves fast and it matters to real buyers making real financial decisions. If that kind of analysis is useful to you, subscribe so you catch the next one. And I want to hear your take in the comments. Which of these 5 do you think has the best chance of turning it around? I'm genuinely curious what people who actually own and work on these trucks are seeing on the ground.